Yeah, so on the menu today is a perfect use for leftover rib meat. I know it doesn't happen too often, but when it does, this is something really great to use it for. But that's gonna be tomorrow when we fill these empanadas. Tonight, we are going to be making the dough and letting it chill overnight in the refrigerator. If you don't have overnight, if you don't have enough time, if you can just give it an hour in the refrigerator, that'll be perfect. But I've got the time, so I'm gonna make use of it. And we're gonna start now first with 2 1/4 cups of all-purpose flour. To this, I'm adding 1½ teaspoons of kosher salt and 1/4 teaspoon of chili powder. This is totally optional, but I wanna give just a little tiny extra zing to this dough. And I wanna get in here and mix my dry ingredients. Just get those combined. Now, before we mix our wet ingredients together, we have to do something else with this flour, and that's add butter. Now, I have a stick of unsalted butter that I've cut up into kind of small cubes. Really, you want them smaller than like 1/2 inch. And we're gonna put these in here and we're gonna use our hands to just break them up. And what you're looking for at the end here is it's almost something like the consistency of a dry beach sand. So we'll get these in here. And you just get in and start squishing them in the flour. It won't seem like anything's really happening actually, but after a while, you'll notice. You wanna get these down so that there's nothing, left that's larger than, say, like the size of a pea. So you just wanna get in there and make sure you get every piece squished, broken up, mixed with the flour, and you can turn it every once in a while like this. You can see those pieces, some of them are still big, so you get in there, keep breaking them down. There is a way to do this, say, in a food processor, but honestly, I didn't want to get out the food processor and have to clean it. This just takes a little more work, a little more elbow grease, and it gives your fingers and hands a workout. And you want that butter very cold when you put it in here, so it should come straight from the refrigerator. And once we get this dough made, it's gonna get wrapped in plastic wrap and go back in the refrigerator. Like I said, I'm gonna have it overnight in there. If you have an hour, that's usually sufficient. I can feel it's really starting to break down in here. Those chunks are starting to disappear, starting to really sort of combine with the flour. Squish them and break them up. Grind them into that flour with your fingertips. I feel like I should be having a conversation with you while I'm doing this because this does take a while. I've been at this for about 4 minutes now. And you can see it's kind of got that consistency of dry beach sand. The fats in the butter are starting to mix with the flour, give it a little bit of structure. All right, I'm happy with that. Let's go ahead and mix our wet ingredients, and then we'll combine the two and create our dough. First, for our wet ingredients, we're gonna add 1/3 cup of ice cold water, and it's even got little chunks of ice in it. You can see right here, that's what I've got. Then we've got a tablespoon of distilled white vinegar and 1 egg. I'm just gonna take a fork and mix these together here. Wanna break that egg up, everybody mixed up in here. Let's get our flour mixture back here, or flour and butter mixture. We're gonna add our wet ingredients and we're gonna mix this. It's gonna be a very, very shaggy dough. It's not gonna look like it's moist enough, but it usually is. You can always add a little bit more of that cold water if it looks way too dry, and I've had to do that in the past. Sure you get down there, scrape the sides, scrape the bottom. Just so you can see what I'm talking about here. It's just a little bit dry. I'm gonna have to add maybe a teaspoon or a couple teaspoons of water, but it's pretty close here. Just maybe a teaspoon or so. I'm actually gonna get in here with my hands now and work this a bit before we get it out on the counter, just to kind of see how it's coming together. You can see it's starting to take shape, needs a little bit more moisture, maybe another teaspoon or so. We're just gonna keep working this here. All right, let's get this out on the counter and finished up. Okay, I've got some flour on my countertop here. Gonna get our dough out here and all the little bits that don't seem like they're gonna attach to it. And we're just gonna work these pieces together, and you will see that they will have a structure. This dough will hydrate in the refrigerator overnight wrapped in plastic wrap. Slide this to the side here. I'm gonna get some plastic wrap out here. Gonna get our dough. Get it on here. Just form it in there. What I wanna try and do now is kind of get it into a rough rectangle shape. Just rough, doesn't have to be perfect. Rectangle, square, whatever you can manage. And we're gonna wrap this up nice and tight. All right, this is going in the refrigerator overnight. It's gonna chill down nicely. That butter is gonna set in there. We don't want that butter just melting out. If you leave it sitting out, that butter is gonna melt. So it'll be nice and chilled tomorrow. We'll be able to roll it out, get some really nice shapes to build our empanadas. And then tomorrow also, we'll be making the filling with that baby back rib meat. All right, our empanada dough has been chilling overnight. And now today, we need to make the filling first because I want that to cool down a little bit also. Because once we roll the dough out, cut the shapes of the empanadas and fill them, they're gonna go in the refrigerator for about 30 to 45 minutes to sort of firm up and set. What I don't want is the filling to be hot inside there. So after we make this, it's gonna cool for about 30 minutes. Then we will roll out our dough, cut our empanada shapes and fill them. Now our filling for the empanadas, which our baby back rib empanada starts with 2 cups of chopped up baby back rib meat. This is some baby back rib meat that I had left over. It's been frozen, vacuum sealed, and I just thawed it out, chopped it up. You can see the pieces aren't tiny, but they're not huge. So this is about 2 cups right here. Then we have a cup of sweet potatoes. Now you can use regular potatoes here, but you want them already sort of par cooked, which means softened. They're not fully cooked, but they're on their way because we want these to be really soft when it goes in the filling. These have been chopped up, a pretty good small size here, and they went in the microwave for about 1.5 minutes just to soften. I've also got a cup here of some frozen fire roasted corn. You can still see some of the ice crystals on it. That can go straight from frozen. I have half of a medium shallot that's been chopped up, and we're gonna finish it off with about 2 tablespoons of shredded cotija cheese. So let's head over to the stove and cook this up. So I have my burner on medium here, and the first thing I'm gonna add is my rib meat and my shallots. There's a good amount of fat in this rib meat here. We're gonna use that so we don't have to add any oil here. Just want those shallots to soften a little bit here. And now our corn and our sweet potatoes. You want to make sure those sweet potatoes are softened when they come out of the microwave. You can always go further than 1.5 minutes. And if you're using regular potatoes, same thing. Smelling great here. Gonna add a good pinch of salt, a good pinch of cracked black pepper. Even though those ribs are seasoned, it's nice to add a little bit more seasoning here at this stage. All right, what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna sprinkle the cotija cheese on top. Then I'm gonna put the lid on, and we're gonna turn the burner off, move this off the heat, and it's just gonna sit in that pan and slowly cool down a little bit for about 30 to 45 minutes, and then we will start forming our empanadas. So I have 2 tablespoons of cotija that's going in here. Give this a quick mix. Turn off the heat. Put our lid on, off the heat. I'll see you back here in about 45 minutes. All right, it is time to roll out our dough so we can form these empanadas. I'm just gonna get some flour on my counter here. Get our dough out here. First thing I wanna do is just work this with my hands. A little bit of flour on top. And I have my rolling pin here and I have some stops set on it. And this will get me down to about 1/6 of an inch in thickness when we're done. So I'm just gonna start rolling gently. Should we flour it occasionally so we don't get a lot of stickage? And this is very cold dough, so take your time here. You can actually see some of those bits of butter in there. Now there's two ways to do this. You can use a traditional sort of cutter here, and then you have the little circle of dough, you fill it, fold it over, and you crimp it with your hands, your fingers, or you use a fork to crimp the edges. Or you spend a few bucks and you get a plastic forming tool like this. It works great. The bottom cuts the shape. You put it in here, press it, fill it, fold it over, and it seals it. I love this thing. I think it was like $3 or $4 at the store. So let's go ahead and start cutting out some of our pieces of dough. What you want to do is you just want to rub a little bit of flour on the edge of this. Let's go down here at the end. We have our first piece of dough. We're going to set this aside and cut some more. All right, we have 7 right here. 1 we already did. The rest of the dough I'm just going to put back into a bag, really seal it tight with no air in there, put it back in the refrigerator. I'll make some more later, but let's get these filled. So I have my little empanada form here, and all I'm going to do is place one of these discs in here, and I'm going to press that center down into the indentation there, that sort of well. Take some of our filling. Don't want to overfill it. Maybe just one more piece of pork there. Press that down. I'm also just going to put a little dollop of some guajillo salsa. You can put whatever you want here or nothing at all. And you just want to make sure everything's in there. And if you find you have trouble sealing the edges using a tool like this, you can actually brush some egg wash on the edge here. It'll help seal it up, but I've found this works really well. As you close it, just make sure things are tucked down in there. And just press. And if you feel like you have excess on the edge here, we can just trim that up. You don't want to trim a lot because you need that seal there. Now, if I was an expert at this, you'd be seeing this as a different process. There are people that do this completely by hand who are amazing. I'm not one of those people, but this is going to be good. Let's do another one. I forgot to mention it, but it does help if you put a little flour in here, not a whole lot, just a little bit of a dusting. Get our disc there, press it down into that well, some filling, a little bit of salsa, start closing it, press everything down in there. I want you to see we have a little bit of salsa that sort of squirted out here. So I probably should have put a little bit less, but it'll be okay. All right, I'm gonna finish the rest of these, filling them, and then they're gonna go in the refrigerator for about 45 minutes to really chill down before they head to the oven. All right, I have my chilled empanadas here on a baking sheet with a piece of parchment paper here. The oven is preheated to 375 degrees. Now, every oven is different. Mine usually takes somewhere around 20 minutes, but start checking around 18. It may take longer, and what you're looking for is for these to be a nice golden brown, and just that nice, if you tap them, a nice little bit of a crunchy exterior. And you'll notice there are a couple slits in here. I forgot to show it on camera, but you do want to put a couple of cuts to allow any steam to escape. And now we're going to give this a little bit of a brush with an egg wash. This is just an egg that's been beaten with really just a few drops of water in it. This is just going to help it sort of get that nice golden exterior. And this is the same thing you can use to help seal it up if you're having trouble getting it sealed when you're forming them. All right, let's get these in the oven, get them baked up. I'll bring them out when they're nice and golden brown and done. All right, here they are, fresh out of the oven. It took exactly 25 minutes for me this time. We had a little bit of seepage here, maybe a little bit right there. That is totally normal. And so we're gonna let these cool for maybe 3 to 5 minutes, then we will plate some up and have a taste. All right, let's plate some of our empanadas up, and I just wanna show you, here's the bottom side. You can see that nice golden brown on there, just perfect. I think I want to put just a dollop of this guajillo salsa on each one, just a little bit. It's really good. There we go, our baby back rib empanadas. Let's dive in and have a taste. So let's see, I'll just take this one right here from the front, and it is still nice and warm, and that's one of the reasons I like to let these cool for 3 to 5 minutes, because that inside can be extremely hot. But let's see how we did. I'm probably gonna get this edge here without any of the guajillo first, just to see. You can see that nice flaky exterior there. Really happy with how that dough turned out, and I tell you, sometimes it just doesn't look like it's gonna come together or work, but it does. Let's try some of that salsa on there. Now, when I was a teenager, my friend's mom, who was from Mexico, would make empanadas, and hers were the best that I've ever had. These are not as good as hers, but they're darn good.